Well, does he? Does Tuchel shoot Bayern to the top of your list of Champions League contenders, or does someone else stand out? What's up, everyone? My name is Adrian, and this is Rabona TV's big video to preview the Champions League quarterfinals. And while making predictions will mostly go poorly unless you can see the future, I'll be sure to include my picks for you at the end of each section. It's really funny to me. The actual predictions make up less than 5% of this video, but some people only care about that part. Anyway, let's jump in, starting with Chelsea and Real Madrid. These two have a growing shared recent history in the Champions League now, don't they? Chelsea and Real Madrid faced off last season as there was the infamous Mendy and Rudiger blunder at Stamford Bridge, that plus Benzema being Benzema and getting a hat-trick in the first leg. Then an improved performance from Chelsea at the Bernabeu was undone by Real as they went on to come back once again and march on in the competition, eventually winning it. A season prior, Chelsea beat Real Madrid in the semi-finals quite handily to go on and win the Champions League themselves. So I think it's safe to say that the winner of this tie will win the competition. No? But in all seriousness, this is one of the more interesting fixtures, given that you have a team that always finds a way in the Champions League and who has the current Ballon d'Or holder finding form at the right time, versus a team that is incredibly talented but massively underperforming, and whom you also can't count out completely as they have a knack of sacking their manager but still doing well in the Champions League. Will there be a new manager bounce? We'll see. With Chelsea, Potter is out and they are apparently going to stick with interim manager Bruno Saltor, as many of the briefed journalists say that Chelsea will go through an exhaustive process to find their new manager. Bruno Saltor has never managed a team himself. He was part of Potter's backroom staff. He was a leader of men in his playing career though, and took a keen interest in coaching and tactics. But how that will translate to taking control of this Chelsea side that is in a massive rut, we don't know. New manager bounce? Who knows? Maybe. A continuation of Chelsea flopping? That wouldn't be a surprise either. We just don't know. In fact, in their first match under Saltor, Chelsea failed to score once again at Stamford Bridge. I mean, that doesn't bode well, does it? Compare this to whom Real Madrid have at the helm right now, and it's a completely different story. Carlo Ancelotti, his ability as a manager was called into question after underwhelming stints at Bayern, Napoli, and Everton. But upon returning to Real, has been an incredible fit once again. Real's overall form hasn't been tip-top. Benzema going in and out of the side due to health reasons hasn't helped them. But in the Champions League, Real Madrid's performances aren't tied to any sort of form, are they? And Benzema is back now, and Vinicius looks all the better for it as well. On top of this, Camavinga has settled in at the left-back position, Alaba has returned to partner Rudiger, and things in general look like they are moving in the right direction for Real Madrid at the moment. Again, not to bang on about him, but the crux of this being Benzema returning to form. We saw last season how they struggled without him at times, and this season proved that once again. So long as he stays healthy, he is the key for this Real Madrid side. As alluded to earlier, it's difficult to say what you will get from Chelsea. By all of the recent history we've seen from them, they absolutely struggle to score goals. And while they don't exactly leak goals, both Kepa and Mendy are in poor form, returning from injury, or both in the Senegalese keeper's case. It will be a very difficult tie for Chelsea, and while there's a chance of a new manager bounce, it's most likely that Carleto and Real will be in the semi-finals once again. The second leg being at Stamford Bridge could be important for Chelsea, though Villa cared little about the Stamford Bridge atmosphere recently, didn't they? I see Real going through. Man, choosing between these two sides is no easy task. If you've been watching my coverage for a while this season, then you'll know that I've had Bayern as my favorite to win it all. Yes, even while Nagelsmann was there, with City and Real as the other close favorites. Put those three in a hat, and whoever you pull out, I'm good with backing them to win it all, and I think Bayern has even more legitimacy now with Tuchel at the helm. The one thing about Tuchel taking over now, well, we're talking about a similar thing as Chelsea, is will they have a manager bounce? But saying new manager bounce as something to associate with a manager at the level of Thomas Tuchel is a little bit funny, because he doesn't need a bounce in order to be successful. At Chelsea, he took over and won the Champions League, and given the quality that Bayern Munich has, the fact that they subbed on Cancelo, Musiala, Gravenberch, Gnabry, and Mane against a team like Dortmund, I mean, That's some nice quality off of the bench, isn't it? It remains to be seen which Tuchel we will get at Bayern. With Chelsea, we had a Tuchel that put a focus on defensive solidity. Even at the tail end of his PSG tenure, he was doing the same, as he was moving away from the attacking style that brought him success at Mainz and Borussia Dortmund. In his first match for Bayern, he deployed their favored 4-2-3-1 and reinstated Thomas Müller to great effect. I think this was the right move, but it bears the question of where do you fit in one of their top performers and one of the top talents in world football in Jamal Musiala? Does Choupo-Moting get dropped and Müller played as a striker with Musiala behind him? But Tuchel loves Choupo-Moting. He had him at Mainz and PSG, so we'll have to wait and see. It's early days. I'm sure Gnabry and Mane will be curious as well. While they have struggled to get clean sheets in the Bundesliga of late, they blanked PSG 3-0 on aggregate, as both De Ligt and Upamecano have improved lately. There is a question mark over the right back position, as Cancelo, Stanisic, and Mazraoui all made way for Pavard against Borussia Dortmund, so we'll see what happens in that position. A lot of wait and see with this team right now. Now, Tuchel rolled out the same formation in the Pokal versus Freiburg, bar Davies getting rested and Cancelo starting. The lineup was the same as well. And what happened? They lost at home 2-1 as they were dominant but just couldn't finish. Is this something to worry about? As for Manchester City, they are in fantastic form at the moment, which has coincided with Erling Haaland refinding himself after a bit of a lull. Speaking of, he was actually just a spectator for City's recent drubbing of Liverpool, which was way too easy for them. That's partially down to Liverpool being dreadful this season, but you can't take away City's performance. One of the things that has been fun to see recently with City is just how well Grealish has been playing. His first season under Pep was a bit of a slow one. It was his internship season, we'll call it. But he has become integral to their attack and has managed to win Guardiola's trust in him, and rightfully so. Not only was he good going forward against Liverpool, but the way he tracked back to cut off an attack and block Salah's pass attempt was a testament to how he has grown under Guardiola, how he's bought in. Guardiola has recently been playing around with his formations, tinkering with a back three that has been utilized more and more frequently since about mid-February, but a 4-1-4-1 has also been utilized. I know I haven't talked shapes as much with other teams, but this is important for City as these formations have brought De Bruyne and Gundogan further up the pitch at times, leaving Haaland less isolated, while still allowing them to play their wide men in behind for cutbacks and crosses to the Norwegian. By the way, Erling Haaland has faced Bayern 7 times and lost every time. Again, it's Dortmund against Bayern. They will always lose, but he scored against them 5 times still. As for Guardiola's record against Tuchel, well, it's a bit lopsided as Tuchel has only beaten Guardiola 3 times, but some context is necessary here as well. While Tuchel was managing Mainz and Dortmund, he never beat Guardiola's Bayern, which isn't a surprise. But with Chelsea, he beat them 3 consecutive times in the 2020-21 season, and as things started to regress at Chelsea, he lost to Guardiola twice in the 21-22 season, each time only by 1-0 scoreline. So the recent record between these two is quite competitive, just as Bayern and City's records against each other is locked at 3 wins apiece. Man, it's a coin flip for me. This is as close as they can come when you consider all of the storylines here surrounding Bayern and Tuchel signing up, Guardiola and Tuchel's recent history, Cancelo facing his former side, is Haaland that missing piece to finally deliver a UCL trophy for Man City? There's a lot of narrative. Personally, I think the winner of this tie will be a favorite to win the entire competition, and since I said Bayern will win it all previously, I'm not going back on my word. I'll stick to my word and choose Bayern to go through here, but all I really care about is seeing some great football and high drama, which this tie has the potential to deliver. And don't get me wrong, I also believe that Bayern can beat City. It's not just a pick of integrity and sticking to my word, but it's going to be very, very difficult for them. Their experience in winning this competition could go a long way. Well, after this weekend's result, this tie looks a little bit different, doesn't it? After the World Cup break, Napoli lost to Inter, and after March's international break, they lose to Milan. So is it a Milan club's thing? Is it a slow start after international breaks thing? Or maybe it's a lack of Osimhen? Victor Osimhen has been in amazing form, as you guys will already be aware of, a top 3 striker in Europe at the moment with the way that he has been playing, 25 goals and 5 assists from just 29 appearances. To give you an idea of what kind of form we're dealing with here, Those numbers are comparable, in fact better than Karim Benzema's 22 goals and 5 assists from 30 appearances. Without Osimhen through the middle of this Napoli side, you're looking to Simeone to lead the line. And while he is great in his own right, he doesn't have that understanding that Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia have, and most of Simeone's success has come as a substitute as well. It's expected that Osimhen will miss the first leg, but we'll see what happens for the second. The midfield, again, it struggled against Milan, but we can't just look at one match as the rule, you know? But the midfield of Lobotka, Anguissa, and Zielinski has been fantastic all season long, providing both creativity in the middle and cover for the back line, which has well and truly excelled with just 20 goals conceded in 28 matches in Serie A, one more than league-leading Lazio's defensive record. Kim Min-jae has been a huge part of that, while Rachmani's performances have been fantastic as well. AC Milan is a really difficult team to analyze. They were decent for the first part of the season. Then they went on a terrible run in January where they were winless in 7 matches, found themselves a bit of form in February, fell out of form again, and went winless in 4 matches. And then, as mentioned earlier, they went ahead and beat one of the best teams in Europe, Napoli, comfortably at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona. One of the things that will be the most encouraging for Milan will not just be the fact that their defense and midfield were dealing with Napoli's threat fairly comfortably. There's that word comfortably again. But just how good they looked on the counter thanks to Brahim Diaz and Rafael Leão. The Portuguese attacker in particular coming alive at this point in the season is a massive boost for their attack, as we saw last season just how important he was to that attack. In fact, while it's tempting to say, he's not in as good form as last season, his numbers are comparable. Currently, he's on 11 goals and 10 assists, where last season he had 14 goals and 12 assists from 6 more appearances. The question mark for me in this one is all about consistency surrounding AC Milan. They have been anything but consistent in 2023, struggling both in the attack and at the back. At the back, Maigna's return will make the defenders far more confident. Then again, he was back for their losses against Fiorentina and Udinese. So, what can you make of this Milan side? Reasons to doubt Napoli? The question mark over Osimhen. This is the first time being in the quarterfinals. Also, Osimhen apparently lost his lucky mask, by the way, as well as the fact that they just lost to AC Milan at home. Was it a one-off or not? We don't know yet. I think that the fact that the second leg is in Napoli will be a big difference maker, which sounds funny to say considering Milan just beat them in Napoli. But I personally am leaning more toward that being a one-off rather than a sign of what's to come. So I'll go with Napoli for this tie. For all of you who were born in the 50s, which I can almost guarantee makes up less than 1% of my audience, you may remember the 1965 European Cup final from the San Siro. Maybe you are one of the 89,000 people in attendance as well. No? You don't remember that? What? Well, Inter beat Benfica 1-0 to win their second consecutive European Cup under Helenio Herrera, Mr. Catenaccio himself. Anyway, enough with the ancient history. How about more recent history? Or at least 2004-2005, when Benfica and Inter met in the UEFA Cup, and Inter won one and drew the other. In general, Inter has a pretty good record against Portuguese teams, with 10 wins, 5 draws, and 4 losses. They even played Benfica's main title rivals Porto in the last round, getting through thanks to a 1-0 win in Milan, and then a cagey 0-0 draw in Porto. But as far as their home form goes, they've been pretty poor recently, with 2 consecutive 1-0 losses at the San Siro. Much of their struggles come down to the fact that they are unable to consistently score goals, and it doesn't matter who they have out there. Lukaku is still in Belgium World Cup form, as we witnessed this past weekend against Fiorentina with yet another sitter that he missed. Lautaro, he has been good in flashes since the World Cup, but recently has fallen off with the rest of the team. Dzeko as well. What makes it confusing with Lukaku is that he scored a hat-trick in the international break. And Lukaku did convert a penalty against Juve in the Coppa Italia right at the death, so they avoided a loss and took their scoring record up to 2 goals in their last 5 matches. That said, their defense hasn't been too bad at all, just as Onana has been fantastic for them in my opinion. The back 3 have all been fairly good, but there is reason to question Inter in the wide areas, such as Denzel Dumfries on the right, should he start, and on the left, DeMarco is returning from injury, while Gosens has flattered to deceive at times. If DeMarco is healthy and plays, that bodes well for Inter's left side. Big time. With Benfica, it has been one of the best seasons I have seen since the second half of the 2018-19 season, when Bruno Lage much stormed the league with João Felix, etc. Everything has clicked under Roger Schmidt as Benfica finally had the bravery to stop bringing in recycled Portuguese managers and instead try something completely different. It has absolutely paid dividends as Benfica's new high tempo and high pressing approach has put them at the top of the table domestically, and across all competitions, they have only lost twice. Once in a terrible match against Braga, where their performance was embarrassing and Braga were strong. And the other, again against Braga, but this time in a shootout after being down a man from the 30th minute to the 120th. So you can take from that what you will. Benfica was lucky, in air quotes, to play against Club Brugge in the round of 16, but they had to earn that, which they did by topping their group ahead of PSG and Juve. This was before PSG started to stink it up in the winter, when they were still one of the few clubs in Europe that was yet to lose. There were also questions to be asked as to whether Benfica would suffer without Enzo Fernandez, but Chiquinho and Orsnes have both stepped up massively when called upon, and Benfica's record stands at 10 wins and just that shootout loss since Enzo left. So, has Benfica regressed since losing Enzo? Not at all. They just score slightly less maybe, but still, 16 scored in the last 5 matches is not exactly too bad, is it? Defensively, Benfica is doing well thanks in large part to Florentino in front of that back line, cleaning up the midfield, and that back line, Antonio Silva and Otamendi have been great, though it should be noted that Otamendi will be out for the first match against Inter at the Estadio de Luz, which is a big loss. But having him back for the trip to Milan will be a boost, and we'll see if he can help Benfica extend their clean sheet streak. 3 consecutive clean sheets when playing away. By the time they play in Milan, it could be stretched to 4 consecutive as they play CHAMPS away. If this match was happening in the fall, Benfica would have a lot more of a difficult time, I think. But as things stand, Inter are picking up losses for fun. But they avoided a loss, just barely, away to Juve in the Coppa Italia, thanks to that aforementioned penalty from Lukaku. Just barely, as you already know. So for me, I'm going with Benfica to advance in this pretty difficult tie. So those are my picks, guys. Benfica, Napoli, Real Madrid, and Bayern to advance, but who cares about my predictions? I hope most of the value from this video came from the actual preview. Regardless, picking teams is fun, so be sure to do so in the comments. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.